Please welcome back Brian Desmond.
Welcome back, everybody. Everyone having a good time? How about over there, having a good time? What an amazing Guidewire keynote. Power of community, power of community, power of community, setting a new bar for P&C platforms, making history here today. All right, as I mentioned, we're just getting started. Four amazing speakers from our customers on the stage. Tatiana from Affinity, David from State Farm, Andrew from OnStar, and an amazing guest speaker tomorrow that you must see, Scott Hamilton. Reese Witherspoon in a little bit, and Jane Pel will be speaking from CNA in a few minutes. Now, I'd like to spend a minute introducing an entirely new program that I'm privileged to introduce at Connections, Affinity Groups. And the whole goal of Affinity Groups is twofold: to provide a place where you can network with your peers, and secondly, to show support for diversity, inclusion, and community right here at Connections. There's two ways in which you can participate. One, be sure to pick up buttons to celebrate specific affinity groups by the registration area. And second, join us for a special luncheon, again downstairs, during the lunch hour to celebrate affinity groups. There's one group I'd like to specially call out. This is our Valor group for veterans and allies, honoring the experiences, skills, and perspectives of military service members in P&C tech globally, the Valor group here at Connections. Please thank them for their service. This also gives me the foundation to announce another new program, the Valor Skills Program. This is a big idea. It's all about bridging the talent gap in P&C tech by providing complementary courses and mentorship to veterans in P&C technology, specifically cloud and solution architecture. There are two aspects to this program: access to AWS courses in cloud architecture and Guidewire mentorship, followed by access to a veterans talent marketplace where these talented professionals will be available to all of you to hire and bring on to your teams. How cool is that? The first person to go through this is David Grimm. David is a 6-year Marine reservist. He's more than halfway through his courses, also working as a full-time systems engineer. He will soon be on the talent marketplace for all of you to compete, I guess, over David. David, thank you for your service, and congratulations for being the first person to go through this. If you'd like to learn more about this, please email us at valorskills@guidewire.com. Again, just a privilege at this time of the year to launch this program. Okay, now it's my privilege to introduce the Guidewire Innovation Awards program for 2023. The idea with this program is to recognize the successes of you, our customers, who are moving insurance forward every single day by engaging better with policyholders and agents, by making insurance more efficient, by creating better insurance products, and we invite you to participate in this awards program. We got many, many entries. Some of you tried to bribe us. Didn't work. Just kidding. Many entries, and we had a really tough time picking the winners. And I am privileged to introduce the first award winner for the Innovation Awards for 2023 to Affinity Insurance. Let's take a look at a video celebrating their story.
We think of ourselves as a 150-year-old company that acts as a startup. In 2021, we have the second largest IPO in history of Canada. We understood that to really scale our business, and prepare for our upcoming IPO, we needed the technology stack that will be able to seamlessly scale and support that growth. The whole stack, setting it up, is 10 times faster now. I'm particularly proud of all the accomplishments and innovation that we brought to the market to serve our customers and our brokers.
Tatiana Lalkovich, please join me on the stage. Well done. A 3-time award winner here. Tatiana, would you like to say a few words?
I am so privileged and honored to accept this award on behalf of Team Definity. With that, I'd like the Team Definity in the room to stand up to get recognized. Can we have some lights, please? Thank you for your remarkable work to get us this prestigious award. But since this connection is all about power of community, I would like to invite Anthony Chen from Deloitte and Dave Patenden from Google Cloud, our trusted partners, on the stage. Thank you and your teams for accelerating innovation at Affinity.
Here you go.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, guys. What's with the shoes and the outfits? So it's, you know, there's stores here on site. We can fix it. It's amazing.
Is there award for best looking team?
There is. It's an amazing story, well told.
Thank you.
Congratulations. All right, congratulations again. Now, we believe in showcasing, most importantly, the success you, our customers, are having, right? And clearly we did that this morning. We're going to continue it right now. And our next speaker is going to be Jane Pel from CNA. Fun fact about CNA, they were our first customer in 2003 when they bought ClaimCenter. Round of applause. Actually, Hastings Mutual signed on the same day, and to be perfectly honest, and I've looked, we can't find out who exactly was first. So there's going to be an arm wrestle on the stage later if you want to join us at lunchtime. Jane Pel is an accomplished industry veteran in P&C, having had roles at Liberty Mutual and Accenture before joining CNA in 2019. Jane has witnessed the evolution from build to packages to now cloud-based platforms. So she's got an amazing story to tell from CNA's perspective, and also a powerful message for everyone in the room about a novel way to see how can we keep improving insurance every single day. Please join me in giving a warm Connections welcome to Jane Pel.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you very much, Brian, for that warm welcome, and to the Guidewire team for inviting me to speak with you today. As Brian said, I'm Jane Pel, and I'm the Chief Executive Information Officer at CNA, with responsibility also for physical security, cybersecurity, and underwriting operations. Over the next 20 minutes, I'm excited to share with you a bit more about my personal policy administration software journey, one that many of you will likely be able to relate to. A little bit more about CNA's journey and how we, the Guidewire community, can work together to evolve the Guidewire experience. I'll start with a step back in time. Like many of you, my entire career has been spent in insurance. So how did I fall into it? Because let's be honest, that's how we all start our insurance explanation for our careers. I was working for a consultancy who sent me to Allstate to maintain their commercial property application. I would find myself sitting at the dumb terminal, yes, that's how old I am, digging through the complex code on the AS400, trying to figure out how to make the changes that the actuaries had just walked me through. And it was there that I was launched on a career to try to solve the fundamental quandary for policy administration. There has to be a better way to automate all this stuff, right? The process is really simple when you think about it. You provide a quote if they want to buy it, you issue a policy, you might change or endorse it along the way, and then at the end, you're either going to cancel it or you're going to renew it. It's pretty straightforward. After several more years of digging through various companies' policy administration code for some of that very straightforward process, and other methods of learning, I ended up running Accenture's policy administration and underwriting practice, a role that I held for over a decade. And in that role, I saw a flurry of clients coming to us asking, there has got to be a better way to automate all this stuff. Who are the top 2 to 3 software players? The reality was, there weren't any. Sure, there was a long list of 8 to 10 different players, and every few quarters, maybe one would come on and several would fall off. Their architectures just weren't flexible enough to handle that very straightforward process. Now, I'm sure for some of you this sounds familiar because while we waited for that software package to finally emerge, we started building custom because, how hard can it be? An endorsement's an endorsement, right? Yeah. So we went down a path of building custom. And even at Accenture, we decided to build a custom solution that we were hoping would become one of those top 2 to 3 packages. And as anyone in the room who was part of building something like that at that point in time can tell you, it's a lot harder than it sounds. So thankfully, we began to finally see a few top players emerge, right? Guidewire, who had started as a claims provider, started thinking that maybe they could do more to support the full customer journey, right? Underwriting, policy administration, and claims. Did they have magic that none of the rest of us had? No, of course not. They hit a lot of the same problems that we did. But with some experience and more experience across a number of different lines of business and a number of different types of carriers, finally, thankfully, there was an answer. There were 2 to 3 top players, with Guidewire emerging as one of the absolute best. And I, and many of my peers at that time, started to feel so much better about it. But the reality is that the harder part of solving that problem was still with us. We each had to take a step back and say, great, now that we have software, how do we actually put this into a viable solution to drive value for our companies? I made a 20-year career out of helping insurance companies work on that exact problem. And as a result, I was part of some really big bangs and some transformations that took years. Even when I joined a carrier about 10 years ago, I inherited at that time what was an 8-year-ish custom policy administration and underwriting journey for a small to mid-commercial. And I'm here to tell you what I think many in this room have experienced and probably already know. Much like building that needed software, getting that policy administration and underwriting journey done for our companies is a lot harder than it sounds, whether you're using software or not. So let me fast forward a little bit to joining CNA in 2019. And before I dive in, I'll give you a little bit of background on CNA for those of you that might not be familiar. CNA is one of the largest US commercial lines insurance companies. And while in the past we've sold personal lines and life insurance products, we now focus entirely on commercial and specialty. We provide a broad range of standard and specialized insurance to over 1 million businesses and professionals across the US, Canada, and Europe. At CNA, we're focused on building success by sustaining a deep underwriting culture, optimizing our distribution engagement, attracting and retaining top talent. My team's sitting over here, so there you go. And institutionalizing deep specialization. And we've been at it for a while. This year we celebrated our 126th birthday. And as we continue to evolve our business, technology and data are at the absolute heart of everything that we do, which means that my team and me have an amazing opportunity to create an impact on our employees, our brokers, our agents, and our customers. So let's dig into that a little bit more. Before I arrived at CNA, there had been a big transformation program in place. Some of you who've been to Connections before may have even heard a little bit about it. There was a lot of great work done by good people who worked really hard. And as Brian said, CNA was one of the pioneer customers of Guidewire, with some debate about whether we were 1A or 1B. I was hoping Brian would land that plane for us today, but no. Either way, CNA began to chart a relatively uncharted course. That program was multi-year and measured in hundreds of millions of dollars. And as is frequently the case with these long transformations, eventually the leadership team decided that the program wasn't efficient or a great use of capital, and they shut it down. And that is not because the software isn't great, and it's not because we didn't have an incredible team of people working really hard to do it. It's because these big programs frequently have a ton of overhead to them, and they can fall over under their own weight. We had moved 5 lines of business, but we had 4 more to go. When I arrived at CNA, everyone kept asking me, when are we going to restart the transformation? And what would we do about what at that point in time had become a legacy version of Guidewire? So to start with, we had to make a decision about what to do with our version 8 instance of Guidewire on-prem, right? And we have one of 2 choices. We could either upgrade to V10 or go right to Guidewire Cloud. Now remember, this was 2021, and Guidewire Cloud had been announced. You saw some of that this morning. And we had 2 leaders that actually had come from a company that was working on implementing it. But like all software, we really weren't convinced yet that everything had settled out in the new version and that it was ready for prime time for us. So we decided to go to V10. So how did we end up not going to V10 and skipping directly into cloud? It actually came out of this very conference. Guidewire was telling us that they were at a state of maturity, but with all due respect, of course they would, right? We obviously had to make our own decision. Now, we had been monitoring about 15 key capabilities that we wanted to see get to a state of maturity before we would be comfortable. So this is stuff like Okta integration, APD, data replication out of Guidewire Cloud into our instances, and more. What changed the decision for us was that at this conference, my team spent time in various technology sessions with the product teams, with the platform teams, validating for ourselves that we thought the product was ready to go. And after the conference, we worked with our business partners and put together the case for cloud. Now, it would have definitely been easier to stick with the decision that we had made not 60 days before this conference, that we were going to upgrade. But we also knew it was not the right decision anymore. So we made the decision in partnership across the leadership team that we were going to go to cloud instead. And then it was on to the harder part. Now, we could have restarted the transformation, but we had to think about the learnings that we'd had as a group. So I thought back to a conversation that I had with the then longtime CIO, enterprise CIO at Liberty Mutual when I worked there. A conversation I often think about and I've talked to my team about since the day that I got to CNA. A conversation that completely changed my perspective from thinking about these things as modernization to understanding that if you use a different word, it actually puts it into an entirely different frame. So I was about 2 years into my career running the full technology stack for small commercial. And like many insurance companies, we had legacy tech that slowed down and acted like a ball and chain, slowing down almost everything that we were trying to do to bring new capabilities to the business in an agile way. So we put together a modernization plan. And I went and I met with Mr. McGlennon and I sat with him and I said, good news, we have a modernization plan. And he said, great, stop. Don't you think modernization is a horrible word? What? He said, listen, technology moves on every quarter, and modernization makes it sound like there's an end someday. And the reality is that there isn't. Don't you think evolution is a much better word? And something absolutely clicked for me. And that's what I've drilled into my team since the day that I started at CNA, that we had to start thinking about things in evolutionary terms, because otherwise there were these big $150 to $300 million programs or nothing. And I'd already seen how that played out across the over 10 carriers that I worked with on that problem. Now, like CNA, almost everyone in this room is likely staring down the barrel of some part of that journey, whether it's that your policy administration system's old and you need to replace it or update it, or you have something on-prem and you want to take advantage of the cloud. Or maybe you have to quickly stand up a new line of business, or you've got some other business priority. Whatever your particular situation is, it is great when you have that one key moment where it's clear that everybody is ready for that transformation. But frequently, there isn't that one key moment. And if you go searching for it, you may actually never find it, which leads you with the knowledge that something needs to be done, because no matter when you implemented your solution, it's already aging. And new capability is going to get harder, at a minimum, more expensive to implement as time goes on. And I get it. It's tempting to wait for that key moment, and I've done it. Or you can figure out how to group these changes into meaningful bites that get something done and deliver value while providing strategic optionality for your business. And that's the difference in the way that we're approaching it at CNA. If you have the case for a big bang, congratulations. If you don't, I would still submit you can't stand still. And either way, know that transformation does not have to be big bang. It can be incremental improvements and continuous updates made significantly easier in the cloud. So that's great. But how are we actually putting that into practice with the work that's happening at CNA, which is that continual evolution? So let me tell you about the barrel that we were staring down. First, we are one of the market leaders in insuring law firms with a whole insurance program around it. And our business started to get worried that they needed some new capabilities not to lose our competitive advantage. Second, we had a legacy system that was supporting the vast majority of our specialty business. And within 6 months of arriving at CNA, the business president asked me to write an apology letter to our MGAs who were the primary users. And I did. And I told him that we would have to write one every 6 to 9 months for the foreseeable future, because until we updated that old tech, we had done everything we could to shore it up and nothing would really be different. So he co-sponsored an initiative. Third, as I mentioned, our commercial lines of business were sitting in one of two places, either in an on-prem version of Guidewire, VA, or in a legacy mainframe policy administration platform. And we knew we had to upgrade the former and retire the latter. So here's our approach. Right now, we have 4 separate initiatives with separate funding for each one of those. Now, you're going to say, well, yeah, that's got overhead too, and sure. But it really is, and has been for us, a much better trade-off for that strategic optionality that we get. So, first of all, we knew that a greenfield implementation would be the fastest path for our specialty products. So we have one initiative, replatforming our lawyers' line of business, lawyers program, as I mentioned before. That initiative number 1 just went live in September. 2, our second initiative is replacing that horrendously performing specialty system. And we'll go live with our major package and 9 lines of business in early Q2. While we worked on that for specialty, we were also working on commercial. We had to figure out that V8 instance. So we worked with Guidewire to confirm exactly how we would be able to migrate our V8 instance into the cloud, and that will become our commercial instance. That effort number 3, will be completed in early Q2 2024. And in parallel with that migration, we've been doing the early work on our products to prepare them to migrate off the mainframe. That work, effort number 4, will carry on over the next few years. Even within those initiatives, we're taking a bit more of an evolutionary approach. So for example, in the lawyer space, we went live with an MVP, and then we'll deliver additional functionality over time as our MGAs are ready for it. With that preparation of migrating the lines off of the mainframe, we're doing that in specific funded milestones and chunks. That way we can stop, if we need to, if business priorities or something else changes. So for those of you trying to figure out what to do, or you have to migrate something, or you're staring down the barrel of a bigger program that you're thinking about, I'll leave you with 2 lessons that we've learned from our own journey. First, think in terms of evolution. Don't be afraid to break things into those smaller chunks, and be transparent about the benefits of it. That you can pivot if you need to at various points in time. And while I get it, my team was very nervous about the fact that a pivot would leave us stranded between the old and the new. But I would submit we're always straddling the old and the new. Technology evolves every quarter. And getting your business partners and technology teams to understand that you are never really done changes that conversation and frequently makes it easier to fund in chunks. Something more palatable to the business, and therefore easier to continually move your company forward over time. The second, think of Guidewire as a true partner. Be transparent about the questions you have and what you need to make your decision. So for example, when we were staring down the barrel of our old version of Guidewire on-prem, we asked Guidewire, what are you planning on building? When is it going to be available? Even if you need our help to do it, because that way we knew we could plan our migration at a point in time when the software would actually be ready for us. And also, don't assume if it doesn't exist in the Guidewire ecosystem that it's not possible. So we pushed, and I'll tell you, pretty dang hard, because we knew we were going to be, on the early end potentially of a number of clients that would have to figure out how to migrate their V10, V8, pick your on-prem version, into the cloud at some point. And we needed tools from them to help us make that less risky, even if we had to co-invest, which we were more than willing to do. So that leads me to the last thing that I wanted to share with all of you today. An ask for those of you that will be living in this Guidewire ecosystem, and an ask for Guidewire. So in the world of on-prem software, we'd obviously, we'd influence the roadmap, but then we had very independent decisions to make about what we would take in-house, when we would take it, right? We as customers now need to shift our thinking to that of a community. Adoption of new capabilities in the cloud is dramatically different and frequently easier. There are business problems to solve, more business value that we all need from these platforms, and great opportunities that new technologies like Gen AI, I waited 17 minutes to say it, that the cloud will make easier for all of us, right? And of course, we'll all need an architecture that lets us take advantage of those new capabilities while maintaining our own competitive advantages. But we'll all need things like interoperability between cloud platforms, whether you're in Google or Azure or even AWS. We need industry-leading rating capabilities so we don't have to integrate with as many other platforms that we have. We need an ecosystem of Guidewire partners so we can take advantage of new complementary solutions as we need them. So my ask for all of you is to come together as a community to guide the development and prioritization for Guidewire in an even more direct way. That will assure that they can do what we all need them to do to continue to make us and our company successful. When I think about what Guidewire owes us, I think about it in 3 categories. The first one is ease of tech. We heard some of it today. We need them to keep removing friction for ease of orchestration and interoperability. Keep the APIs open, make them flexible, make it easier for our development teams to do what they need to do. Second, bring their partners together. Continue to ideate, to learn, to innovate, and prioritize so that they can bring those capabilities together for us when we need them. And lastly, establish a process that helps bring this community to life in different ways throughout the year, while, of course, maintaining consideration for the personas, that big list of clients that they had up on the board, who are also very different, but need a lot of the same things. Thank you for an opportunity to share the CNA story. Hopefully the idea of evolution is one that can help you on your journey, whatever barrel you might be staring down. And I look forward to working with all of you as part of the Guidewire community. Thank you.